Jasper. Oh, this is for posterity.
It's okay.
Damn. What have I to do with jasper and sardonyx, beryl and chalcedony? What with arcs and Passovers, ephods and ephods? What with leopards and emeralds? What with heave offerings and unleavened bread, chariots of fire, dragons crowned and horned, behemoths, a unicorn, good for Orientals? These are nothing to me. The more learning you bring to explain them, the more glaring the impertinence. Didn't like him. Didn't like what he was writing. And he goes on and on like this. My God, he just goes on and on. The Lutheran bishop's son, for whom the heavens are opened, so that he sees with eyes, and in the richest symbolic forms, the awful truth of things. He's like Michelangelo, who in his frescoes put the cardinal who had offended him to roast under a mountain of devils, or like Dante, who avenged in vindictive melodies all his private wrongs. There goes Swedenborg.
Well,
So let's see what Emerson has to say.
who was that?
Huh?
Who was that?
That was Emerson talking about Swedenborg.
Okay.
I mean, he just goes on and on like that. Oh my God. But essentially at the beginning of the treatise, he said, the man had such super intelligence. He predicted everything that was going to happen scientifically in the future. Atoms, physics. The man was over the top genius, but Emerson felt like he went cuckoo. Like, what? But it happened to Blaise Pascal too, by the way. Blaise Pascal was another one of those super geniuses who at the end of his life said, it's got to be more than just this. And then he went off on those tangents. But he didn't produce that encyclopedia over there like that. So Emerson was opposed to all this stuff. Let me read just a few things here. And also, did you ever hear of Richard Kiley?
No.
He was the narrator for Jurassic Park when Richard Attenborough said, spared no expense. Remember the narrator, the baritone voice? He used to do narrations of mysteries of the Bible, but very nice voice. So I'd like you all to read. These are just Emerson saying, I'm not going to go through all this. But you see where it's highlighted down below? You see in big letters? Yeah.
Oh, we read the big letter part?
Yeah, well, I'm going to read it. No, first I want you to read it in silence. I'm going to let you read it at home.
The whole thing or just the bold?
Just, oh, this is going to show backwards?
No, we see it backwards, but they see us the right.
I don't know if it's going to work or not. Can you see any of that? Read the bold down on the bottom.
Yes, you had it better closer up. Okay. And yeah, just don't move it. Thank you.
I can't really.
Okay. It's like a shadow here or something.
Yeah, part of it is. Yeah.
Ain't gonna work. But anyway, read it. Let me read. Well, the point I'm trying to make here is I want you to read it in your own voice, and then I'll read it in my voice, and then I'll read it, allow you to hear Richard Kiley's voice reading it. This is important. Yes, the only mode of obtaining an answer to these questions.
You're gonna read it to us now?
How's that, folks? Better, Wilma?
I can't read that.
You guys read it? I'm going to read it. The only mode of obtaining an answer to these questions of the senses is to forego all low curiosity and accepting the tide of being which floats us into the secret of nature. Work and live, and all unawares, the advancing soul has built and forged for itself a new condition. The question and the answer are one. Richard Kiley. Sometimes I think we're deceived by people's beautiful voices.
of obtaining an answer to these questions of the senses is to forego all low curiosity and accepting the tide of being which floats us into the secret of nature, work and live, work and live. At all unawares, the advancing soul has built and forged for itself a new condition, and the question and the answer are one.
Nice. Who wrote that? It was that.
Emerson.
Whole Emerson, this whole thing?
This little quotes from Emerson, yeah, yeah.
I think it's beautiful.
I just wanted you to hear Richard Kiley, how a person's voice can really draw us into words. I couldn't do it. Your own voice probably couldn't do
No.
it. So what I put out to everyone, how did that move you? The question and the answer are one. Is Swedenborg going to give us the answers?
Well, he gives us his questions and the answers to his questions.
What are his questions?
All in the books.
You going to work your way through that?
Oh, not all of it. I don't want to read all of it, but I've read as much as I can. And my own questions, I get my own answers. But if I read some of his, maybe I like what he says too, and he sees something that I don't see. So then that opens up my mind a little bit more. So then it lets in more answers or more questions.
And it's like you were saying before, in some ways, he sets an example of sorts, and as you read through, you recognize for yourself what resonates with truth.
Mhm.
And that becomes being unaware, but then advancing the soul just by life experience before we forged into a new condition.
But the thrust is work and live, work and live. Essentially, he's saying, and
You
one
have
of
to
his
live.
one of his quotes from his spiritual lights in the book was, if I can get it down correctly, I'll do it justice. Work and live, work and live. I won't do it justice unless I recall it correctly.
But he does say here, let me admonish you, first of all, to go alone, to refuse the good models, even those which are sacred in the imagination of men, and dare to love God without mediator, yourself a newborn bard of the Holy Ghost. But that's his opinion.
It is his opinion, and that was his whole thrust. But Swedenborg is completely contrary to what Emerson stood for. We're supposed to find our own revelation, not dependent upon anyone else. And I'm getting sick and tired of people preaching from the grave. Even Richard Kiley's preaching from the grave. He passed away in 1977. But we have Ellen White from the Seventh-day Adventists. Didn't we attend a workshop? And all they put up there was her quotes on the screen. We go to a Christian Science service. They say a Bible quote, and they pull open the book, her interpretation. I felt like saying, she's dead. Can we move on?
So
No. And then we have,
But
with
her
some
thought
others,
is not dead, thought is never dead, thought is immortal.
but they're interpreting the Bible with a dead person's interpretation.
Oh, and they formed a religion around it.
Yeah,
Oh, well, I know, that's the point.
that's the point.
Forming a religion, but just realize Swedenborg did not form a religion. He did not form a religion.
Oh, you mean it sprung up without, he was a
That's-
Lutheran.
Well, he was excommunicated, but
He really was?
yes, but he did not start a religion with all his writings. It was people who got together to study his books and then wanted to start a religion.
Start a society.
A society, that's right, they started a society, just like Unity was just in the living room of the Fillmores to study the books. What? I don't know, was it the Bible, whatever, yeah. So that's how Unity started.
So where do we go with the Swedenborgians?
Well, the history, you'd have to look it up, I don't know exactly, Wilma could probably tell you better than me. From the point of when the first guys met in the living rooms, and then when they wanted a church and they got real fancy, they got, real they modeled it after some Christian churches. Right, and then. So Swedenborg's idea was the new church. The new church is within you.
Descending from heaven with beryl and sardonyx and all the other jeweled things that make up the earth.
Yeah. What, did he say that? Swedenborg said that?
Yeah, that's why Emerson's fed up. Come on, I don't need beryl and sardonyx.
I think it's jewels, it's rich, it's treasure, it's all the people that have gone before. When you leave the earth, some of your thoughts will be here, Bob. And you
Maybe it will be.
get
They just recorded me. I'm here for all posterity.
great wells of thought. All our thoughts are they're here, they're forever.
I love this debate, though. I really do. I love the idea of, what's the word admonish mean?
Warning.
Warn. Yeah, so let me admonish you, first of all, to go alone. You know, I think, and let's put that in the place of history. When did Emerson live?
1840, 50, 60,
So.
prior Civil War.
Think about the position of priest or model of men's imagination. I mean, I'm just putting that into historical perspective. That we, you know, the priest and the rabbi were the intermediaries. Mediator between God and God's voice in the Bible when other people couldn't read. When the pagans, when the Christians couldn't read words from the Bible, that was the mediator was necessary. To see yourself as a newborn bard of the Holy Ghost. What I feel like is my own answer, and I love the question and the answer being one, is that I look to people who I admire and the writings of genius and the writings of people that are held in a sacred space. And then I look at what I resonate with.
You like Swedenborg?
I do. I love a lot of what Swedenborg has to say. You know, and I,
You think George Dole was the reincarnation of Swedenborg?
no, but I think George Dole was one among many very brilliant men that walked this earth. You know, and I love one of the things, so I haven't done much exploration in the book of the Earths of our universe, you know, and it's where I think Swedenborg goes a little bit further around the bend than most people are willing to go. And in George Dole's funeral services, there were many like gatherings around that time on Zoom, and one of the things that they highlighted was a student going to George Dole and saying, you know, but what about these Earths of the universe? Like, how do I believe in the teachings of it? And he said, you know, the Earths of the universe teaching didn't change how I treat Lois on a daily basis. And so he brought it back to what is it about Swedenborg's teachings that helped him be a better man day to day.
Working with.
I also like this, our religion vulgarly stands on numbers of believers.
But we don't have to worry about that here.
No, and so, yay, I said, well, it's vulgar then, we don't have to be vulgar because we don't, right? I like that.
It just says a testimony to Dan Wood. I
Yeah.
remember one time at a council meeting, he said, well, with our new approach, he said, now we can bring the people here in droves. I forget what expression.
Those glasses, Bob.
Yeah, yeah, you know,
We don't have to worry about it.
it occurred to me, but I might be wrong, but one of the reasons why the Swedenborgian churches are so small is because of this very fact of having an open mind and accepting and honoring diversity, because how many people really want that? People want to find a teacher, a dogma, a set religion, study it, believe it, defend it, live in it. They do not want it to be questioned. they don't want to explore other faiths. They want to be in that, so they look for one that they join, or else they were raised in that religion. And that's where they stay. And this Swedenborgian denomination is basically open-minded, more open-minded. So I don't think people like that. In general, there aren't so many people who are going to resonate with that. How many people do you know?
Well, we had one acolyte come up here maybe 2 or 3 times and she ran away. And there was another acolyte here. It's like almost like our services are scaring away people.
Oh, who was that?
She was an odd person.
Oh, you mean, what's her name? The odd person? Yeah, I remember. Yeah, well, we lost touch with her when COVID hit. That's
Oh.
She only comes in person, so she
Yeah,
doesn't do
she
the
didn't
online.
have communication with us, so we couldn't do Zoom with her.
Oh.
So we did lose her, and who knows where she is now.
I'm sure she would be coming if we were. in
Yeah.
person.
Yeah, she probably would be.
Yeah.
You know, people come.
You know, I feel like that's, Emerson is talking about what I understood, Swedenborg.
Talk
to
louder.
be. I understood Swedenborg to be where you're saying, where it is, you know, you are the connection, foster your connection. And, you know, that's what I got, and that's why I'm here in this space with you guys, which it sounds like is what Emerson's saying too. So I don't quite understand how they're at odds, other than
With Sweden.
Emerson was going off on the way, but
He
when it
was.
comes right down to it, I think they're saying kind of the
That's
same
right.
thing.
I
So,
don't, his visions he didn't like, I don't think.
Yeah.
What didn't you like, Bob?
Swedenborg's visions, essentially
No,
Emerson was all
right.
about, we have the eternal right to have our own personal experience.
Experience, which is exactly what, you know, what I understand the definition of mysticism to be, is having your own personal experience of the divine. So,
And you really can't explain that to others very well. And Swedenborg himself said he had trouble with, at times, explaining what he did see.
and I
And-
think that's the point of work and live, work and live. What is your experience? Live it. That's the only way you can know it. Sorry to cut you.
True, but then there is that level. There is that other level that isn't so material and, you know, so the thought and the feeling and the visionary is not really down to earth. It's not.
Yeah, but you still have to find it under your own steam. Somehow you have to live it.
Yeah,
Whether-
bring it down into manifestation.
So how come people didn't start an Emersonian church?
or maybe they just haven't yet. But I do think that's what he's warning about, is the danger
Yeah,
of, you know, and even like I've heard other people that were longtime Swedenborgian faith believers say, you know, that Swedenborg himself would turn over in his grave if he knew there was a church in his name,
Yeah.
because it was so opposite what he wanted. And I do think there is a very big danger in following verbatim the words of anyone. I love this section of the imaginations of men. Because I do think, there was a client I had at Mercy years and years ago, and we were doing something about identifying your spiritual belief and the God of your understanding in your upbringing. And this one young man said, I think that God is the imaginary friend of adults.
and me.
I tend to agree, you know, like. And so for me, you know, I always look, no matter whether I'm reading the Bible, which I rarely do, or I'm reading a passage like Swedenborg and trying to understand it, I think, you know, there was a woman here that did a sermon one time and reading from the Bible. She said, just imagine that I'm reading to you somebody else's dream. And that helped me immensely, because I just took all the judgment out of it and just said, dreams and dreams.
And yeah, and being such a remarkable man, he had remarkable dreams.
Yeah.
He was transported to like Ezekiel.
Right, well,
Which
same
puts him
realm.
over the edge.
Same realm.
Our dreams are odd. This was like St. John on Patmos Island, getting the book of Revelation, the seven churches.
But don't you think if you went into the heaven realm that Swedenborg went in, according to what he says, and other people say, it's fast moving. It doesn't stop, and thoughts and vision and all this stuff is always, remember that movie,
Dreams my calm.
yeah, that one with
Where
Robin
dreams
Williams.
might come.
Yeah, and they showed the heaven realm, and these people were flying this way and that way. Things were colors and whatever anybody thought came into manifestation. So it's all this stuff going on all the time, fast, 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 like a person with ADD, it's kind of like stuff all the time. So,
I don't know.
yeah, well, they have that focus, then you have, I would think. So if you had some mind control and focus, then you could say, okay, I'm focusing right on this. So Swedenborg was able to do that. Maybe that's why he could write those books when he was having those visions, because he had such a trained mind. Not everybody could probably do that, because he'd probably be like,
Well, he was a genius, that Emerson.
Yeah.
And I also think there's a very fine line between genius and madness. No, I really do.
That's what Trump says, he's a very stupid.
Recorded for posterity.
End of presentation.
do you guys have anything you want to say?
Yeah, I want to say that for me, it's about learning how to love. And for me, that's really difficult. And so when I look at Swedenborg's passages or the Bibles, it's all part of trying to learn how to do that in the best way possible. So I like the intellectual stuff and the dreams and all that. And if it helps me towards being more accepting and creating justice and love and peace on the universe, then I go for it. But if it stops me from doing that, which I think I'm reading the Christian Nationalism, which is very fabulous. It's from Pamela Cooper White. And it talks about the evangelicals and all this and the whole history of what we've experienced. And for me, there's a lot of lack of loving. And that's where working and living, it needs to be more than work and live. It needs to be, how do we love? Where is this love? And the question and the answer is the same, but I'm still not able to fully love because I have a lot of really strong emotions against the Christian right, which I'm working on trying to establish.
On the sheet from Emerson is, when I rest in perfect humility, when I burn with pure love, what can Calvin or Swedenborg say? So you're right.
Yeah, nice. Thanks, Karen. That was really great.
Yeah, Swedenborg never wanted to establish any kind of church or institution. One of my favorite passages of his is about, on Sunday morning, you may be able to find God better by a walk in the woods than by going to church. And so you should do the way you find God on Sunday morning. So he wasn't an institutionalist at all.
Yeah, thank you.
This was a beautiful presentation. I like
I didn't want to do
it. See? Okay, we've had the closing ritual.
Please repeat after